typically he's putting them to bed. But me and Crips. So
dynamic duo.
I was here to say, yeah, we're getting it in. We got the rankings. Probably talk a little Madden 19. Some of the changes that we're making next year. As far as like, some of the rules and things we were thinking about. So yeah.
Dev League's coming along nicely too. I think we got one open spot. We got 63 users. We got 63 users. Basically, I guess we're double counting the commissions in there, but still.
Yeah.
We're pretty close.
I was going to say, we got quite a few people right now. And Suf is apparently upset that we'll do a podcast but won't play Modern Warfare 3 with him.
Oh yeah, you know what? Hey, so I told you I will play Modern Warfare 3 tomorrow with you when I get internet, but I don't have internet, which is why I'm on my phone, which is why my camera angle looks all weird.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But yeah, so let's get into these rankings. Of course, early on we got number one, which is my squad, Panthers. Crips.
I guess I get to
run point on this. Yeah, I'll let you run point on that one.
Wow, I can't believe you're entrusting me with this. You don't know what I might say. No, but undefeated record so far this year, coming off a Super Bowl win. As much as it might anger Pook that LJ stays number one, he's. I don't see how we can, turn the tables on it and flip it, because Pook, has had a great season, and I think to kind of mesh both of y'all together, because I feel like that's honestly how it's gone for the last like 2 seasons now. But to his credit, he's probably had the best number 2 season of anyone so far, but you just can't compare to what LJ's done at number 1. I mean, he went on a 15-1 regular season run last year, makes it to the Super Bowl, wins his second Super Bowl in 3rd year's dynasty, and now he's starting 6-0 again this year, and it's just it's hard to not look at what he's done with the team he's assembled and the way that he has beaten his opponents this year, including his wiping the floor of Connor to an extent, despite Connor's undefeated record, and bringing that home to be 6-0 coming into this. It's not it's not really a knock on Pook that Pook is number 2. It's more of a lifting up of LJ, because LJ just deserves the number 1 ranking. And I think I can speak for all of us who unanimously had him at 1 and unanimously had Pook at 2. So I think that sums up 1 and 2 pretty well.
Yeah.
Sorry to spoil the Pook at 2, but I don't think it was much of a surprise.
Yeah. Speaking on Pook at 2, he's done a lot. I mean, he made Vicious concede. His schedule it's not a typical Pook schedule.
He's had some bangers in there.
Yeah, so I mean, he thumped stuff. So
he thumped Vicious too. I mean, for what it's worth. I can relate. I can relate to where Vicious was when he conceded that game, but he thumped Vicious.
He did.
He's had a great start to the year, and I feel bad for having to put him at 2. I mean, I do, except there's just no way that I can reasonably put him above LJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's been this way for the past 2 seasons, because 3 seasons to be real.
It's just y'all are 1 and 2. It's
yeah. So I mean, because even last year, like Corey's argument was, my even though I had that 1 loss to you in week 2, from that loss, I think I think at that point I just basically ran roughshod through everyone else, at least till the playoffs started. So
yeah, no, it's like I think you got pissed off. You lost to me because Leonard Fournette scored 5 touchdowns,
oh yeah,
and I don't think you allowed crap on the ground the rest of the year except for the game after.
yeah, I felt really disrespected by that, but it's okay. It's all right. we're, we're good. But yeah. So I mean, I think with Poop, his record is impressive.
It is. What he's done this season, what he's done this series is impressive. I would damn near call him the best regular season user in this league, and I don't think it's really I don't think it's a question, and that's not a knock against anybody else. That's just what Pook has been able to do in and out in the regular season. And you know, we can talk this now being, halfway through the last season. We can talk all-time Madden 18, and I would say that while it's still close, who like the top 3 guys I think would probably be Pook, you, and then maybe Lights at 3. I feel like it's like Antonio Brown and then the rest of the top receivers in the NFL. It's close, but there's no question.
Yeah. I mean, with Poop, he's definitely dominated in the regular season. Mm-hmm. I think the matchup we all want to see is me and Pook in the Super Bowl for all of it on the line.
let's force Wentz into the Super Bowl so he can actually win a couple playoff games. And then we can actually see the matchup we want to in the playoffs instead of getting disappointed every season and seeing LG just whoop up on some other AFC scrub with a backup quarterback.
Oh, sad face. But no, that was first. I'm surprised I won that game. I still to this day don't know how I pulled that one out. But But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think we've talked about Pook and me and Pook enough, so I guess we'll move on to the next one.
And this was a weird one. Outside of y'all too, I think the rest of the top 10 was just weird. I mean, there was no agreement. I had Connor at 3, and then Corey had him at 6, and you had him at like 9.
No, I had him at 7. So
you had him at 7, or Corey had him somewhere else. Like
Corey, it wasn't much agreement outside of that, so that makes this more interesting. But we got
after last week, we just all agreed on everything. There was no debate.
Exactly. We got Dicey at number 3.
Oh,
big jump. Because
where did I didn't have him top 5. I don't think, did I?
You had him.
I think I had him 6. I had him 6.
You had him at 6. I had him at 4. Corey had him at 3.
Yeah, and that goes to show how wonky this week is.
Well, Dicey with the big jump. He was ranked 17 in the power rankings last week. Jumping 14 spots.
Helps when you beat 3 top tier users in 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say you beat Emmons, beat Lights, and then you come up and beat Roger. Mm-hmm. But you want to start? I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, with him, it's typical Dicey, especially with how that team is. It's really built specific to his style, and it works regardless of what we want to say about it. It works for him. So
it does. I have to play it later this season, so I'm not necessarily looking forward to that, especially after he beat Emmons, who don't even. Why am I reminding myself of that week 1 game there? But now he's had a great start to the year. He stumbled a couple times early, but I mean, when it came down to it, it was easy putting him ahead of Emmons for me because I really didn't feel like Dicey was top 5, just because when you look at some of the other losses that some guys that are 1 loss have had, I felt like his couple of losses were kind of outweighed it, but I still did give him credit for, the wins that he's had this season. And ultimately it came down to that, not that Emmons' 1 loss to Dicey wasn't a quality loss or anything, because Dicey's obviously quality talent. It was just, when you look at Corey's 1 loss was to Connor, whose 1 loss was to LJ, who y'all, that was kind of that was, I think, my top 4 which I think we'll kind of get to, was, I mentioned I had Connor at 3. I think I had Corey at 4. And when it came down to that regard, it was easy for me to put Dicey over Emmons, just because I think I had Emmons at 7 already or something. And so it was easy they were one after the other for me. And so it was an easy switch for me, just because, Dicey, it wasn't like a 4-point game. It wasn't a blowout, but he beat him solid, and it was a solid win, and it was a quality win. And that sums up the last 3 weeks for Dicey. So,
yeah, it was, it's definitely something that, we've looked into before, where, we have a team. One of his 2 losses came in a forced loss. So, well, not a forced loss, but we put him on AP. So,
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that, honestly.
So yeah, he definitely earned that 3rd spot this week.
I will agree with that. As much as I had my ranking, I will agree, because it was him, and then all the 1-loss teams were just neck and neck.
Yeah,
it was just.
So next we have Corey at number 4, with his Chiefs team that he continues to draft extremely well for. So
DBU.
Yeah, I was going to say, he continues to draft extremely well. I think between these last two drafts, he drafted 5 or 6 superstar dev guys in between these last 2 drafts.
If that's one thing I can take from, is that I need to pay attention more to stories next season, because I think he's drafted more superstar quick dev guys in the last 2 drafts than I have in all 8 seasons. So
yeah,
I need to do whatever you and Corey are doing for drafting and team building. I need to do that.
Well, Corey's been trading up a lot. That's never really been my thing. I think from my team building aspect, especially because I think the highest I've drafted this CFM was, I think, 17.
That one year you didn't make it. The CMC's MVP year. No.
After year 1. I think
okay.
I drafted 17. That's when I drafted McIntosh in the 1st round. But yeah. So, I think other than that, I think that's the highest I've picked. So I think for me, it's more so, it's not even just about the drafting the devs. It's the fact that I find quality guys later in the draft, which is something I've done well with. But anyways, back to Corey. So
LJ finds time to talk about himself again.
So
Corey, his 1 loss, I think, we just mentioned, was to Connor, and that was, I think between me and LJ, we've probably heard about 2.5 hours of bitching of how badly Corey screwed that game.
Yeah,
and how much it was one of those. Yeah, that
one of those
one-off
games.
And he.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that was just kind of, and he's had a great rest of the season, and it was, and it was, honestly, I feel, kind of in a similar vein to when you lost to me early in the year last year, and I, which I think 2 or 3, he's bounced back from it, which is, I think, the biggest thing you want to see with a loss to a quality team like that. So he maybe next time he plays Connor, he won't throw 8 interceptions, and then maybe he'll win the game.
Yeah, that was a terrible showing. But with Corey, with that receiving core, with Battle, Tarrant, and Tyreek, Boyle getting off on the ground, then you have that defense, which typically consists of older guys in his front 7. But he still finds a way to make them work. And then you got that secondary where you got Landrum at corner. You got the 2 of the 6'4" cornerbacks in the league are on the only 2 are on his team. So, So
I'm still salty I passed up on that man last year. I'm still salty I passed up on him.
I told you that. I told you to draft him.
Well, I needed a corner. You told me to take Huston. I didn't want to take Huston. You told me to take Huston.
Yeah.
And
you're talking about Tofield. No.
No, I'm talking about the what's his face, the 6'4" dude. That was the slow dev guy that fell.
Cunningham didn't get drafted last year. That was like a couple seasons ago.
Was that a couple seasons ago?
Yeah, that was a couple seasons
you did
ago.
tell me that. Who did I take instead of? I could have taken. Was that when I took Unger? Was that when I took Unger?
Yeah, that's the one you took the tight end in number 6. You took tight end at number 6, and then then took your starting tight end. You're now starting tight end later in that draft.
That was the worst. That was one of the biggest busts in this CFM. I swear it has to be, because that from a development standpoint of what I've needed on my team since then has just killed me.
Yep.
I needed a corner, and I could have taken. And I had Cunningham, and I could have had Cunningham, and I botched that so badly. But that's a debate for another day when I'm actually top 10, which I still am not, because I'm sitting at 500.
Didn't quite make it this time, but
I somehow went up after losing 2 of my 3 games. I somehow went up in the power ranking.
But yeah, so I mean, Corey, yeah, he does his thing at 4. We'll see how the rest of his season goes. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. I'm pretty sure it'll go pretty well for him. I don't see any reason why he will fall off. At 5, we got the Pats, which is Grid. So
back at it with another impressive year.
Yeah. So I mean, Grid definitely has done great things with that team, where he just continues to make it happen. I think his first loss was last week against
Chan.
Yeah, against Chan, who's also playing really well. But
he's had a underrated season, which I don't know if we'll end up getting to him or not, because I don't know where he finished. But I mean, from Grid's standpoint, I was actually talking to him earlier today about that loss to Chan, and he was. I mean, I think to sum it up, he basically called it eye-opening, and has kind of gotten back to basics on offense a little bit, and I think it showed. I think he lost to Chan, and has he played a game since, or no?
No, he hasn't played yet.
No,
but
he did play a game in another league, and I don't know how many of y'all have heard me lament about that one commission in that other league I'm in, and he played him since then, and Grid actually beat him, and me and Grid have lamented together about our struggles to beat that man. So we were he took the loss to Chan to heart. And that's the sign of a true champion. So I think he deserves this top 5 spot.
Yeah, which is why I think Josh could really do something to Pook this week, regardless of
Josh
whether Pook wants to. Josh plays Pook this week, so that I'm just going off of what you said, where that loss kind of put him back on it. I think that could happen this week, but I'll talk about that after we get done with this top 10. But Grid definitely has, especially since he's been in here. He's been in here, 3.5 seasons, and this is the 3rd straight season he's in playoff contention. So
that last season he took over when that team was 9-10 losses.
Yeah, I was going to say they had already been knocked out of playoff contention for weeks. So,
and he took over that team, which I think at the time we all agreed was one of the top 5 worst rosters in the league, and instantly turned them into a playoff contender, and probably has one of the better win-loss percentages since he's joined, if you look at all time, which is, again, saying a lot to his ability as a user. So
definitely. And I mean, he's definitely continued to do a lot. Brandon Cooks, an all-pro candidate, more than likely first team All-Pro.
I think he'll make it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he's done crazy good with that. I think Connor just mentioned me. Let's see what Connor got something to say.
Oh, he mentioned you. He didn't mention me for actually having him top 3.
He did. He did mention you.
Oh,
he mentioned both of us. But But yeah, so
oh wow, okay, I see how it is caught. I have you at 3, and it's an injustice. I have you at 3, my dude.
So yeah, but so Grizz done his thing. But on to the next one. We have Emmons, who at the current moment is on vacation, but he'll check this out probably sometime later this week. But yeah, so
okay. He's not good enough to be top 5, so he just sucks. It has nothing to do with the fact that there's like a bunch of undefeated and 1-loss teams. He's terrible, overrated.
So we got Emmons now. And yeah, that now Emmons has done a lot with that Lions team, returning them back to prominence after that lost year they had between Snippy and Emmons, even though he kept the tradition up of losing in the first playoff game. But
as he will even proudly tell you, but as a Lions fan, I think it wouldn't be fitting for him to actually win a playoff game. I mean, if Barry Sanders couldn't win a playoff game, what makes you think John Emmons ever could?
Oh, that's disrespectful. But so yeah, with Emmons at 3, I mean at 6, Emmons at 6. I think I had him at 4 actually, or did I have him at 3?
I had him at 7.
Oh no, I had him at 5. So you had him at 7, I had him at 5. Corey had him at 4.
Yeah, we only had 3 commissions do their power rankings because Bishop is too busy womboing to participate. We'll leave it at that. And then Emmons obviously being on vacation. But yeah. Surprisingly, y'all don't get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I usually get my power rankings done about 30 seconds after Corey sorts the rankings before we go live. And I had mine done about 4 hours before the podcast tonight. So there's your peek behind the curtain of how prepared we are today.
Yeah, we are definitely ready to go. But yeah, Emmons, he's gonna keep doing this thing. He keeps keep pushing it with that Lions team. Only loss is to Dicey, where I mean, I don't know if there's a stream or anything, but it's one of Dicey's stronger wins. So
I've heard a lot about it, and I know Emmons was very frustrated with the outcome, but he'll bounce back. I'd be surprised if he loses more than 3 games this year, and all credit to Dicey for winning the game, but I would also be surprised if Dicey ends up sweeping Emmons, because this is one of those losses that I've got a feeling Emmons will come back the second time around and not make, and he'll fix a lot of the things that plagued him in the first game. So I don't know, he's headed towards another strong season, another great finish, and who knows, maybe he can prove me wrong and actually win one in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can make it happen. Emmons he's proven before, obviously, that he can get to the playoffs, but it's a matter of winning once you get there. So we'll see how that goes for him.
Whether it be the Chiefs or the Texans or the Lions, he does have a problem losing in the first round, but it's okay. He won't have to play me, and I seem to be his biggest first round plague. So there's that.
Well, so up next we have our very own Connor, who he's screaming injustice right now in the chat, but it's okay. It is.
He tagged me twice. Dear God. I know. Love you. My quality loss, though. Hey, it is literally the most quality loss one could possibly have. I will say that, and I did have him at 3. I will say that I did have him at 3, and I had Corey at 4 because, I mean, when Connor's only loss is to the number 1 team, and Corey's only loss is to Connor, by the factor of distribution, Corey's only loss is to LJ, which is also the most quality loss. So But he also lost to Connor, so that's why he was 4.
Yeah.
No, Connor's had a great year. Surprising year. I'll give him that. I didn't expect him to start the year. What is he, 6-1 now, 5-1?
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected him to be at this point. I mean, we all know that Connor can play, which
but he's also in the only division that's fully active at this point.
Yeah, but he definitely has made a very strong statement on the scene with that win against Corey. I think that's when we really started noticing just how well he's done this season. But
right. If you're shit long enough and you just take it, you'll get good one day. We're seeing it live in front of our eyes. He's not bad.
I mean, if you think about it, though, it took him about as long as it took the Saints to kind of build that team into what he wanted it to be, and now that it's there, he can really play the kind of game he wants to play. So
for sure. And I think it's a kudos to him for sticking with it, and he even having built the team to what he wants doesn't necessarily mean that he's guaranteed to succeed. And the fact that he has not only succeeded, but I think exceeded expectations has, I think it speaks to a lot to him as a user and potential in the division of death next season.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll be a tough division next year. We'll see exactly.
When a guy who is 5-1 in the last season is arguably the 4th best player in that division, and that is again nothing against Connor.
Yeah, it's going to be next season is going to be next Madden is going to be a very interesting one with how this is shaping up. But yeah, so Connor definitely is making it happen, and we'll see. He has me one more time, and there's
beat you.
There's no telling how that could go. So,
I'm sorry, LJ, but I'm not rooting for you in that game.
That's fine. Join Poop, who's wanted me to lose for the last 3 games. So.
I mean, out of spite to Poop, I'd probably still put you number 1. But I just want to see Connor beat you, because I understand the struggle of losing to someone in your division twice a year for like 5 or 6 years in a row. And for him to pull one out, I understand that, and I can relate to it. So I'm rooting for him, but I'll still probably keep you at number 1 despite Poop.
Yeah. So there's Connor at 7. At 8 we got Lights and his Cardinals. Yeah, I mean, he's been about as consistent as you can be in the regular season as well. I think he's only lost the division like twice so far in Madden 18, and he continues to make it happen. So I mean, it's just a matter of him getting.
I feel like it's a matter of how many games he's going to win the division by more often than it is if he will. Yeah, and again, that's not an indictment on who his division mate is in Roger. It's weird. I'm trying to not be the guy taking shots at people today. It's weird, but it's. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to bash Roger or anything. It's just, Lights, as we were talking about earlier, is probably a top 3. Is probably a top 3, definitely a top 5 regular season user in this league. I mean, he's the only guy I know that can quietly go 13-3.
You mean quietly go 15-1?
Or was it 15-1? Yeah,
where he lost
13-13 and 3 the year before that. I mean, he's quietly lost 4 games in the regular season over the last 2 years.
He lost that game to me in week 1, and then he didn't lose again, literally.
Who beat him in the playoffs? Did you
Nobody
beat him in the playoffs? Or?
He won the Super Bowl. He beat me in the playoffs.
That's right. He did win the Super Bowl.
In the conference championship game. But
that's right.
But yeah, Lights definitely has done it. Handgartner is apparently back in good favor with the
Coaching staff
coaches.
there.
So that
I imagine that'll be a sentence that gets used in the thing tomorrow.
Yeah. So, well, no, I think I beat that dead horse enough in the in the write up. But what I will say is that he definitely has he definitely continues to make it happen with that team. So we'll see what happens. He drafted another cornerback. He drafted a cornerback to go opposite of AJ Hunter last in this most recent draft with that number 2 pick that he acquired from a future pick that he traded for. So yeah, it's going to be something to watch as the season goes along.
Who we got next to the 9?
Next at 9, we have Roger.
Oh,
which Roger.
It's fitting that they're back to back.
I was curious. I feel like it's been like that this entire since we started doing power rankings. I feel like it's been that way.
Pretty much.
But Roger's at 9. You and Corey both had him at 9. I had him at 11. But Roger.
So, I guess you can start. Why did you have him outside the top 10 then? We actually get one of these spicy non-top 10s. They're not all the same.
Well, my thing with Roger is he has the quality losses. So it's not like he's losing to like scrubs or anything. But I don't know. I just don't feel like his season has been that impressive from watching it. And plus he's had like 2, and plus of the wins he's had like 2 or 3 against like force wins in CPU games. So I mean, it's just I just wasn't that impressed with how he's played that thus far. Just me personally.
I can't necessarily disagree with that because I did have him at 9 for a reason, and everyone between like 9 and honestly like 12 was all really close for me because it was just, I mean, you have a lot of teams that have the same number of a lot of teams sitting at 2 quality losses and a toss up between how quality are their wins and everything. And it was close for me for that into the top 10. I spent more time on numbers 9 and 10 this week than I think I have ever in the past, which maybe that just means I don't spend enough time on power rankings in general. Granted, I'm usually filling them out in the last 5 minutes, but I mean, it was tough to do the bottom of the. It was a tough week for power rankings because of how many people have quality, not only quality records but quality wins, and I mean, you wouldn't expect there to be this still active this late in the cycle, but it is, and
yeah, it's definitely a good look as far as the activity and stuff is concerned.
Yeah, I would agree, and I feel like we haven't really talked hardly at all about Roger and what he's done. Spending time on him. I mean, he's had a solid year. I mean, he almost came back and beat Dicey in that last game after Dicey had him, I mean, dead to rights at the end of the first half from what I saw.
Well,
and he almost came back and won that game.
In my opinion, Roger almost threw it away anyway. I think that was Madden kind of telling him he should have just ran the ball 3 times and tried to kick a field goal.
Was it field goal and win? Was that what it was in overtime? Or
yep,
he had already forced a punt or whatever. Mm-hmm. Oh my god,
he got a pick.
Oh my god,
got it down to like the 30. On the first play, he throws it into coverage. I was like, that was mad, and me and Sub both were like, yo.
I saw that in the chat of y'all both just like, why are you not running the ball?
Like, what was that? So I think that was just Madden telling them you should have just ran it 3 times. You should have just took it like it was and ran it 3 times. But
if you miss a 45-yard field goal, whose fault is it really?
Exactly. So, but yeah, so that was that's how I feel. about Roger being at 9. He's there. I think he. I think he. I just haven't been that impressed with him, so that's why I had him outside of the top 10. But that's my personal opinion.
I don't inherently disagree or anything. I mean, it's been and it's not really anything against Rodgers' season. Again, I think it more just shows how much active talent there is late, comparatively, especially to last year and last cycle. And when I think there was only I don't even know if the playoffs had 12 active users in them in the last year, Madden 17.
Yeah. But it's all good. So we got that. And we also have number 10 now with Josh and his Broncos.
Hey.
So
I think I had him just outside the top 10. I don't know.
Well, I had him the highest because Corey had him at 14. You had him at 11. I had him at 10. So I guess now I got to defend why I had him at 10. I feel like because his only 2 losses are to me and Corey. The loss to Corey was a close one. I think the final score was 27-20.
It was a really close one.
Yeah, and then the game against me, we had to run that game 3 different times, and
I remember that. Yeah,
and outside of in the first 2 times, was a really competitive game. The last game we played, he just he just couldn't quite get the breaks that he needed. So I mean, to me,
and conceded.
Yeah, I was going to say yeah. So to me, and I mean, he would have been higher had he not conceded that game, because you know how I feel about people conceding. But
I gave him a little bit of a pass for that just because y'all ran it 3 times.
Yeah,
he spent more. It wasn't like he conceded and spent 20 minutes on the game.
Yeah.
He conceded after spending probably 2 hours on the game.
Yeah,
and so I didn't knock it as much as Bish is conceding against Pook or anything, and then deciding to go AP and just being a wuss.
Yeah, I think as far as the concede goes, I mean, it's tough whenever you run the game 3 times and the first 2 games are really, really competitive. And then that third game, it just all gets away from you. That's frustrating. So I completely understand that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I had him just outside, and I guess I can kind of segue this into the one guy who I was wanting to talk about, which was Chad, who I think who had the 10 spot for me. And for me, the reason I had him there was, he had 3 losses, and comparatively, the quality of his 3 losses weren't really far off from the quality of Josh's 2 losses, but then the quality of a couple of the wins he had was far and away impressive to the quality of the wins Josh has had for me. And it's not really a knock. I mean, it's not. I didn't really want it to be a knock on Josh. I think I had Josh at 11. But it just came, and you can only play who you play. But at the end of the day, I felt like going back and looking at Chan's, first 7 games, and I said this in our commish chat before we got on here, is that, I mean, he's had one of the tougher slates to start a season out of anyone I've seen in Madden 18. I mean, 5 out of his 7 games are against guys who were above him in the top 10 rankings. I mean, he's played. I'm going to pull up the list real quick because I want to be able to. He's played Emmons, Dicey, Roger, Grid, and Lights are 5 of his 7 opponents.
Yeah, he definitely. Yeah, Chance had quite a tough schedule so far,
and he's 4-3 right now, given that slate. So that was kind of my reasoning for putting him above Josh. It wasn't really a knock on Josh because Josh has, outside of the games, 2 games against you and Corey, has absolutely, amazed this season, especially given that team that he's got. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take before someone tags me in the chat and asks me just what the hell I'm doing right now. But no, I think that really, I mean, you get all the way down to, I don't know, I had Chan at 10, Josh 11, and I can't remember. I think I had Levi at 12. I mean, it was, and that was still not a knock against Levi because he avenged one of his 2 losses when he beat me, and it really wasn't a knock against Levi either. It was just the quality of some of the wins and some of the records that some of the guys have right now is just hard to overlook.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a matter of, it's one of those things where you're just kind of like, how do you really judge it? Which is most of this top 10, just because we have so many people that are quite deserving of being in that spot.
Exactly. So, it's really tough to judge, but I liked it. I mean, this is, I think, one of the most debated top 10s that we're going to have all cycle. And I think that in season 8 says even more, and I think bodes well for potentially season 9, especially on the NFC side of things, where I feel like a lot of people are just going to be beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
Which is going to be kind of funny, given I think that's how the actual NFC is going to go. But yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums up our. I think I can say though, for as much as I get ragged on for always putting myself highest, I had myself lowest out of all 3 of us this week. Which is, I think, when you look back, is probably the first time in like 2.5 seasons at least that's happened.
Yes, Chris.
Yes,
Chris.
I had to throw that in there. It's been a rough start to the year for me. You know what? Not all of us can sit undisputed number 1 every week, LJ. Not all of us can be undisputed number 1 week in and week out.
That is not my. I'm trying. Look, I'm just trying. I'm just trying to play. I'm just trying to play and be the first AMLoB team to go 19-0. That's what I want. But there's no telling how that's going to go. So I'm not even tripping that much. That's what I want. That's what I want. But take it one week at a time.
Yeah.
So that's what
it's been a. It's been a comparatively to last year when the league was more than halfway dead. It's been a fun last season. So
definitely. I mean, I think this year it's been more of a fun season in general.
Oh yeah, for sure. Talent pool's definitely gone up, which honestly makes what LJ and Pook and Lights and all those other high end guys have done year in and year out even more impressive. I mean, when you look at, and you look in and out, and just everything is deeper. I mean, you look at a guy like Saints who's a great team builder and has beaten LJ a couple times. Once. I figured you might correct me if it wasn't a couple. And he's, and you look at a guy like him who I think last year would be vying for a potential bottom of the top 10 spot. And that was just the first guy that came to mind. But I mean, and he's not, I don't think he's been top 10 in like a season and a half. And I think it was like one kind of random top 10. And again, that's not a slight against him at all. I mean, he's not a bad user by any means. It's just the talent pool's gotten so much deeper, which I think it's an amazing thing, and it bodes really well for M19. And that's my awkward segue into M19 talk.
Yeah. Madden 19 is going to be a pretty crazy year for us here at AMLoB. We got the Dev League that we're starting up, which I think will be really beneficial as far as making sure that there aren't any dead spots with teams, and then we don't have to hold on to users that aren't really that active. Because to me, that kind of kills teams too, where you have a guy that's not really an active user and they have this team and they're running it into the ground because they're not really developing guys. They're not drafting. They're not trying to sign free agents. Which I mean, trying not to sign. Well, which not signing free agents is fine if you actually, do participate in the draft. Because
or in the league in general.
Yeah, I was going to say in the development of your players. I think that's quite a few of these teams fell victim to in 17. I mean 18. So I mean, I think having the dev league will help a lot as far as that's concerned.
I think it'll help. I mean, it'll help. As it's called too, as the dev league, it'll help a lot of guys just kind of. I mean, I think in an ideal world, it will allow us to kind of get a better balance of talent within both leagues, and will allow guys to not only get better and be able to move up and everything, but it'll also it'll present, more parity, I think, in both leagues, and you'll have it'll be more fun for everybody. I think for guys that are active, but not necessarily on that same tier level as some of the other guys in the league, I think the development league, at the end of the day, depending on how it all works out, could end up being a great thing because it'll allow them to have more fun and not just losing all the time.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, something that, is been a downturn to some of the guys that we've had join the league in the past of, well, they enjoy the CFM side of it, but they really don't enjoy losing. And it's a lot harder for people to, constantly pay attention to stuff when they're losing double-digit games year in and year out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the dev league will be a big time thing, especially with how we plan on running it, because we're going to have the plan is to have as much immersion in there as we do in AMLoB, which. That's one thing I'm really enjoying is doing the write-ups. I want to expand it to where, we got multiple people doing things that way. It's not just one perspective all the time. So
I think it'd be cool too I've kind of floated this in the past. We haven't necessarily talked about it a whole lot, but I think a cool idea too for the Dev League would be to have a almost like a hard knocks kind of qualification system where to help, still spur some league turnover to an extent, because you don't just want to constantly only have the same guys in, because I think some guys are obviously in the Dev League because they want to eventually get into the main league. It's kind of the incentive of having a Dev League to having almost like a hard knocks kind of league turnover, where it's like if you don't make the playoffs for X number of years in a row and this and that, to where you have the chance to be moved down, to where it kind of spurs people to actually be involved and get better, and at the same time kind of spurs almost like a not quite so constant level of like actual NFL turnover, but a level of having some degree of turnover, so that it's a little more fluid than constantly having the same guys. And then I think it gives a little more, want for guys that really want to keep one team too, to actually work to keep it and not just kind of keep the team just because they chose them at the beginning of the cycle.
Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting concept. We've never done it before, but quite a few of the bigger, more affluent, Madden affluent leagues have a similar system where they have a dev league. So I mean, that's part of what we're trying to get to is, being in that type of realm,
in that tier of being and we've kind of mentioned it amongst ourselves. I mean, I feel like you're the one who is best to explain this about your goals for AMLoB in 19.
Yeah, I'm trying to get us to an elite league, people. So that means y'all need to make Daddy Leagues accounts and add yourself to the and add yourself to the Daddy League site. League. Because that's part of the criteria for being in the elite league is obviously having users showing on Daddy Leagues, which I think right now we only have like maybe 12 people. So that's a part of it. The blogs, we are doing that already, so that's not something we necessarily have to work on.
But I think we are planning on adding to it either way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna say we're gonna add to it regardless. Then you got just like the general activity that we plan on getting. Because we update the league site every time. Well, I try to update it every time I see either a game played or quite a few of the games being played.
Hopefully, my companion app will actually work next Madden, and I can actually help with that. So, for those of people who haven't tried to ask me to update stuff before, I've the Daddy Leagues app is, or not the Daddy League, the Madden Companion app is, with many other people, has not been very kind to me this year, and does not really want to work. Yeah. So hopefully they'll actually kind of improve that a little bit next year too, because that would be nice.
That would definitely.
We're already asking them to actually keep CFM a constant thing in Madden. So I guess we are asking too much of them already. So.
So yeah, we but. That's the plan. We want to try to expand the league. And like I said, just get more people involved in, with the immersion stuff. I think that helps with people wanting to do more with the league, is just constantly being involved with the different immersion things and things that are involved as far as that's concerned. It's something that I enjoy doing. I'm pretty sure most people would enjoy doing. One thing I want to do for 19 is do like a small mock draft show. Nothing serious, nothing too crazy. Something just like 10 maybe 15 minutes, just going through the draft picks and everything. But
to go along with your article that you do.
Yeah. So
that'd be. I think that'd be a good idea. I'm definitely down for that come next Madden. Do you want to go over some of the rule stuff that we've kind of gotten finalized to an extent for next year? I know you had kind of mentioned that. I don't know if you were just like saying something to just kind of put something out there.
Yeah, we can talk about some of the stuff that we got on the table, because I don't think we actually finalized everything yet. But some of the stuff we have on the table. As far as the league is concerned, we have the position changes.
Which we're
try to limit those,
basically everything.
Yeah, we're going to try to limit those to position groups. Basically, to move any guys from outside linebacker to defensive end or vice versa. Like I said in the chat earlier, it's going to be a scheme requirement that
would be submitted.
That would have to be submitted, and we would approve it. So like if you got a 4-3 defensive end, but you're changing to a 3-4, and you want to move that defensive end that you have, that pass rushing defensive end you have to linebacker, then by all means we'll just submit it to us. We'll look at it and we'll
That's not the kind of thing we'd say no to.
Yeah. So
that's mainly to help prevent that specifically is mainly to help prevent all of the 6'7" speed rushers getting moved to be user linebackers. And more so than that's really kind of the big thing in that regard, is to help limit that. And then, I think we've already kind of said in chat a lot too, wide receiver to tight end is not going to be a thing next year. I think one thing we haven't really mentioned is we're mulling over limitations in the secondary, so that secondary position changes outside of flipping free safety to strong safety would need to be submitted as well.
Yeah.
Because, realistically, outside of a very rare Demarius Randall kind of situation, you're never really you don't really, and even then that was a safety being moved to corner and not a corner being moved to safety. And, I think the advantages of 91 zone being what they were have kind of opened eyes in regards to some of the inherent disadvantages that can be caused by allowing people to move cornerbacks to safety so freely. So that's another thing we've been mulling over position change wise. And I know that's probably not something that a lot of people are going to be real happy about, but, realistically, it's not that big of a thing either. I mean, it's not going to detriment schemes or anything, because it's not like when we say like stuff has to be, we're going to have stuff be submitted. It's not like we're going to just instantly say no every time just because, so-and-so submitted a position change request. It's more of just to help us keep a better idea of not allowing. It's really to help not allow cheese be cheese so easily is really kind of the big deterrent there. And, after, a lot of and that's really the simplest way to explain it. And, other than that, I think we've already said we're in chat, but we're doing away with having people play the computer next year, and it's not really I don't think we're going to even have it really be an option after after how many issues we've had with stat padding and suspected stat padding and this, that, and the other. And it's too much of a headache for everybody. And I mean, realistically, especially with the dev league, having people play CPU is going to be a lot rarer anyways. And which is, again, another perk of the dev league, because as we talked about last week, we're going to have the system of if you have so many forced losses in a season without a valid reason, you're more than likely going to get moved down to the dev league for inactivity, which is probably going to be the biggest reason people get moved down.
Yeah.
But
the just to add on to what Cripps was saying, that's going to be the biggest thing of it. Just trying to make sure that we keep people, active, and we're not holding on to teams for people basically until they decide they want to be a part of the
league
until they decide they want to be a part of the league. So because that to me is just ridiculous. Like, if you join the league, then be a part of the league if you really want to be a part of the league. So
it's kind of a dick move to everybody else in the league, to especially when you have, as we've had for a while now, people trying to get into the league, and we say no because, well, so and so, they said they'd be back, and this and that and the other, and I think the amount of times we've ended up turning people away as a result of that has kind of been it's not happened a lot, but it doesn't really need to happen a lot before it kind of, you realize that, okay, maybe there's something we can do to improve this system.
Yeah.
So, and and that's why Khan is starting in the B League.
Yeah, I mean, it is the truth though.
Yeah. And he realizes that too. I only say that jokingly because he knows that that's been a thing in the past. And, he's, as we've said before, he is an honorary AMLoB member, and I think we'll all be more than likely we'll be happy to have him as long as he proves to be a more consistently active user. And because I think that he is, he's definitely the life of the chat sometimes, which is always a fun thing to have.
Yeah.
But, let's see. I'm trying to think of other stuff that we this actually would be helpful if Corey were here, because he's the one who has all this stuff written down. Or did he put it on the? Did he put it on the?
Yeah, I think he put it on the doc.
I'll check the doc then. So then we have some. Okay. Advantageous notes. Yeah. The re-signing and free agency stuff, the contract stuff. That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, once we flesh that out more, I think we can talk about that a little bit more. But
we've got that. We've got the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. That's fine.
No, I didn't realize you were going to actually say something on it, so I was about to change the subject again.
Nah, but with that is just so that we have more realistic contracts that we're dealing with
than all the 7
rather
year
than a lot of these 7-year deals that you sign the low level guy on, and now you devved him into this monster and he never has to come up for a contract again in the CFM. We're trying to get rid of that because that's a little ridiculous.
And we don't have all the numbers finalized yet, as LJ kind of mentioned.
We don't have.
I think the easiest way we can say it is that along the lines of like how the NFL has rookie and veteran minimums, as well as I think this is just me spitting off the top of my head now that I'm thinking about it, but having a system where UDFAs were automatically on 3-year deals instead of 1-year deals would be nice too. But that's not necessarily as easy to manage, but it would be something that would be easy enough to manage, I feel like. But that's, again, just me spitting off the top of my head, not something we've necessarily fleshed out or anything like that, even in the slightest. So the numbers are kind of coming along, but I think it's probably best to not mention the numbers until we finalize what they're going to be. But it's not going to, I think I can say the one thing we have fleshed out is that 7-year contracts outside of a player specifically asking for one probably aren't going to be a thing next year.
Yeah.
Because that's just outside of maybe the occasional quarterback deal, which isn't even really a thing today because of the way that the salary cap keeps inflating at the rate it is. 7-year contracts just aren't a thing anymore. I mean,
most guys aren't trying to, sign 3-4 year deal, if that much, and then just,
come back up for contracts again.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we'll try to do is try to, simulate a system similar to that where, like we said, we don't have a guy that, you sign as an undrafted free agent. You kind of let him sit there for a year so you can sign him to that 7-year deal at the end of the season. And now you dev him into a monster. And you got this guy on a 6-year contract making less than $1 million a season. So like, that's something we're trying to do away with.
Other than that, we had we have the rookie trading system, which we've kind of mentioned before, but I think we kind of fleshed out a little more when we were talking the other day, which I think we're gonna if LJ, if it's cool if I mention what we were kind of talking the other day, or if you'd rather
not yet, because it's not a complete idea.
That's cool. Other than that, I'm trying to think what else there really is. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, a lot of rules changes are just going to be to honestly try and cut down on the rules some, because I think the one thing that has always been a pride of the league is that it's not a 10-page document about all the league rules. It's pretty streamlined. I know we've discussed potentially ever so slightly changing the 4th down rules, but that's not necessarily something that's going to be coming to fruition. That's still something that's in, if anything, early talks at best.
Yeah.
There's no customs. I think we have agreed on that. If there's one thing we've agreed on.
Yeah, the customs we're getting rid of, because it just kind of negates the whole purpose of having a scheme. And there are 32 teams with playbooks. Now, granted, most of the playbooks are very similar as far as plays in those playbooks are concerned. But just as far as being able to do as far as being able to just basically make a play. You find like a playbook like the Saints that has all these fun plays in it, and then you just take all the best plays out of the other playbooks and put those into your offensive playbook. Now you have like this ultimate offensive playbook. I think it kind of defeats the purpose of having a scheme.
And as much as offense is that, I mean, defensive playbooks are game breaking.
Yeah, defense, because you can put literally everything in there, because there's not as many defensive plays as there is offensive ones. So you can put in 500 defensive plays and now you have this crazy playbook.
That's literally every formation in the game because they, for some reason, have never gone back and limited that defensive and offensive playbooks aren't nearly the same size, but custom ones can be.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing we've worked on is just we're just trying to make sure the league stays, as realistic as possible.
Yeah, I mean that sums it up really well, and I think that we've year in and year out, and I think I don't know if it was just Corey spitballing the idea of expanding the idea behind the 33% rule. Again, there's a lot of stuff that's still in very early, if even early, discussions of things that push come to shove. There's a lot of stuff that we're putting that is on the table right now that come the start of next Madden will probably not be in the rule book just because we have spent a lot of time just going through trying to think of pretty much anything possible that we could want to change to the rule book so that we have it all just out there on the table. And, we've spent, I think, probably at least 5 or 6 hours over the last couple weeks in, Xbox, just party chats and just on calls and stuff like that, just talking through stuff because, there's a lot of stuff we want to hash out and we want to get it right. And I think that kind of sums up where we are in the rules change process, but I know a lot of people keep asking. And so,
yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what we got right now. So, we'll once we finalize stuff, we'll actually roll that out to people. Right now,
who knows? LJ might even make an article about it.
This is our version. Yeah, I was gonna say this is our version of a CBA. So
those are version of the owners' meetings.
Yeah. So we'll work on that and get that out to everybody. But I think we've reached the end of our show. I think we still got one person watching at the moment. So,
oh wow, I'm surprised someone actually listened through all of this. Although I don't know, maybe we had 5 or 6, and then people started hearing about the potential rule changes and have just left chat.
At one point we had 5. At one point we had 5, and then I think after we got done with the rankings and people started hearing their names or not hearing their names, they kind of, bounced. But yeah, so we will catch y'all next week. For another AMLoB podcast.
Hopefully it'll be more than just 2 of us.
Gary say we'll see how it goes as far as people getting on. But another edition of Power Rankings. Some more league talk.
I will not be on next week, so there's that.
There's Cripps not going to be here next week, so it'll probably just be me and Emmons. So
sorry, but I have orientation, and unfortunately, the podcast falls on the one night when I have to stay overnight. So
yeah,
there's that.
But yeah, so we will catch y'all next time.
All right, you have a good.